All right. Good morning. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. I'm like almost 20 minutes late. Sorry about that. I uh I don't I'm up every day between like 6 and 7. So I'm like up. There's no reason for me to ever be late. I'm always I'm always up. But today, just like every other day that I'm late, I sat down, I started doing something, and I lost track of time. So that's just me and my very poor time management skills. So thank you to everybody who is here at 10:30 waiting. I appreciate you so much. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I am a front-end developer and software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. How's it going? We do vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on this channel. I don't really use frameworks or libraries. It's not because I'm against any of those things. I just want people to understand the basics. This is a vanilla channel. This is my YouTube niche, so to speak, because I think dev YouTube is pretty saturated, and I feel like I found something that is not getting enough attention. That's really all that we're doing here. And let's not forget that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, those are the three things that the browser renders natively, right? So in a world of React and Tailwind and frameworks and libraries, of course you need to know those things to get a job. TypeScript, let's not forget TypeScript. I do think that you still need to know vanilla. You need to understand vanilla. It's going to help you. I really believe that. I've been a front-end developer for almost 13 years. I do have a software engineering degree. I understand object-oriented programming. I would not say that that's a strength of mine at all. Really, what I'm good at is building UIs, and I absolutely love doing vanilla builds. I mean, I love it so much, and I didn't really start the channel intending to do that. I mean, I kind of did. I actually started the channel, if you go way back 18 months ago, I was doing everything with Sass. And this past summer, so maybe almost a year in, I decided to just do everything vanilla, to no compiler, no node, no nothing, just everything vanilla. And I am so happy with that decision because it has made me so much better as a front-end developer. This, plus the fact that we are just starting and finishing so many projects so quickly, I have this opportunity now to iterate over a process, a system for how I do things. So I would say that this last 18 months streaming these projects has done more for me and my career and my skill set almost than that's very dramatic, than the entirety of my career. That's not exactly true. But it's done a lot. It's done a lot. It's made a huge difference. It's also sort of energized me, motivated me, gotten me really excited at a time where I actually remember saying this to my boss in a one-on-one at my last job, sort of saying, oh, maybe I should be moving into more leadership roles or management roles. Like, I feel like I'm just kind of getting a little bit tired. I'm not super excited about actually coding anymore. And and so that's what I started to do. I became a manager and I started being responsible for mentoring and leading and things like that. And I like leadership, but I don't love the managing people part of leadership. I find that difficult and tedious. I don't like it. I like this type of leadership, educational leadership, where people who actually want to be here are here. And we talk about things and we talk about different ideas and we ask questions and we figure stuff out. That's the fun part of leadership that I love. And YouTube has been the perfect place for me to do that. So okay, should we get started? I don't have anything pulled up yet, so let's go ahead and do that while we say hello. Rahul is here. Rahul is from Nepal. He is 12 hours ahead, so bless his heart, he stays up to hang out with us. He's been waiting 2 days. Monique Robinson is here. Thank you, Monique. Yes. Almost 2,000 subscribers. We're like literally 12 subscribers away from 2,000, which is so exciting. Also, the channel is almost monetized. Since I started doubling my stream time, if you don't know, I go live Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I generally am live for about 2 to 2.5 hours, and we just, code. We just practice our front end skills. And yeah, that has done wonders for my watch time, which is that key. You have to have 4,000 watch time hours to get monetized and be part of the YouTube AdSense partner program, whatever they call it. So we're pretty close to that. That's really cool. Malik Robinson is here. Malik is in Florida. He is doing he's doing a web design internship, which is very exciting. And I have something that Malik and I chat via DM on Instagram, as if you cared. I don't know why I felt like I had to add that detail, but we do. And he told me something, and I'm going to share it. He gave me permission to share it. So we're going to chat about that. It's related to Tailwind and vanilla CSS. For Figma, no huge updates, but a lot of fun so far. So he's using Figma in his design internship. Rayhan is also here. Welcome, Rayhan. So happy. All my friends are here. I love you guys. Okay, let's get our project pulled up here. Let me see. We started this project called Kleenex. And I actually decided, I think I figured out in the last stream that I don't want to call it Kleenex, which is a brand of tissue paper. That's not my name. That's literally the name of the design. I want to rename this Colorado. And we have not initialized a Git repo yet, so we can do all of this right now. So I'm renaming this Colorado. And then also let's get our Git repo set up. While we're doing this, and I'm just going to do the initial commit right now, and we have this Kleenex in here. We don't need to do that now, but we'll go in and do all of that here as we finish our HTML for the home page. But let's at least do the initial commit right now. Let's open up GitHub. And go to our repos. New Colorado. Did I spell it right? I think so. And it's going to be public, no template. I will add my own README. Yes, we are going to add a git ignore, and I will add my own license. So I'm just going to create the repo. And then I'll do the README and the license later. I'm not going to do it now, but I always forget to do this. I'm trying to be better. So let's make sure that this goofy Mac file, DS store, what else do we want to ignore? I'm going to ignore the design files. What else do I want to ignore? I think honestly for now that's fine. Git init, git add, git commit, initial commit, and then I'm just going to copy all of these in at once. All right, there we go. So if anybody, I'll make sure that this gets into the show notes. If anybody is interested, there it is. Good morning. Hello, welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. So do me a favor, go ahead and like the video. Helps the algorithm, helps push this out to more people who might be interested in this type of content. Subscribe if you're not already. We hang out, like I said, 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. starting at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We just practice. I don't do any client work or anything like that here. I just pick mock-ups from my own personal collection. I have been a freelancer and a contractor for many years, and I have lots of Photoshop mock-ups in my collection back from when I did a lot more freelancing than I do now. And we just pick a few and we build them out, and it's all vanilla, all static, just to practice being better at like the core foundational vanilla stuff. Also, I'm trying really hard to grow my Instagram audience this year, following audience, whatever you want to call it. I've been on Instagram since 2012. Yeah, 2012, and I've never really taken it seriously. And in the last few months, I've discovered it's a place that I really enjoy hanging out. I am a doom scroller. I love the reels. Also, if you want to reach out via DM, that's a good place to do so. If you follow me, I'm happy to follow you back, but I get followed and I'm like plus or minus 10 subscribers on any given day because of the number of bot accounts that follow me and then unfollow me because I don't follow them back. They're not even trying to hide the fact that they're not a bot account. It's crazy. So if you follow me and I don't follow you back, just send me a DM and let me know who you are, because sometimes the profile name is different from the name that pops up in the chat, whatever. It would be cool if you followed me on Instagram. I would appreciate it so much, because I'm doing all the things. I'm doing all the things that you do when you like try to grow an audience, right? Yeah, so that's that. Okay, should we get started? Let's pull up our design files. I think we were still working on the home page. So we're going to finish building out the HTML on the home page and get started with some CSS today. And we're just gonna chill and work for a couple hours. That's all we're gonna do. No stress. And Rahul says, I was watching the Front End Masters responsive typography course and the instructor showed his dogs. I swear I've seen dogs like that somewhere before. Let's see. I'm having trouble opening this link. So I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this later. Give me an idea. Give me an idea of what kind of a dog you think it is. By the way, I am not an expert on dog breeds. I know some of the breeds. I know like the herding working breeds, because I have a Sheltie, which is a herding. And then growing up, we always had German Shepherds. But it's very on trend right now. Well, I guess I can only say this about where I live in the Twin Cities. It is very on trend right now to not have a specific breed of dog, that you have a mixed breed, that you are, it's like a, how do I put this? It's like a status symbol to have a shelter dog or a mixed breed dog. And I want to be careful how I phrase that, because I know it's important to rescue dogs. And my last Sheltie was like 40% of the dogs that need to be rescued are purebred dogs. But it's very on trend to not have a specific breed of dog right now. Or that's just how it is right now in the Twin Cities. And I've been I've had people make comments to me about the fact that I have a very specific breed of dog. So I don't know. People are weird about their dogs, man. I'll check out the link. I'll check out the link after the stream. I'm having trouble opening it and I don't want to belabor the point, but once I see the picture, I will throw my 2 cents in on what breed of dog that I think it is. So, okay, let's get started, shall we? So where did we leave off? We left off, I think this was the last thing that we opened up or that we built, which is the subscription. So we need to do the recent blog. And I'm thinking to myself, we did not do any CSS last time. We're still in the HTML phase. So we have the recent blog. We have testimonials, which this is very clearly supposed to be a slider. And I made it very clear last week that I have no interest whatsoever. I have no interest whatsoever in doing a slider, but we might have to for the testimonials, because generally you want to be able to see more than one testimonial. So I could be talked into it. We'll have to see. I don't know. I'm not into, I'm not into it. Okay, well, let's just get started. So here we are. We have a new section called Recent Blog. Let's move this over here. Yeah. So here's our hero, our headline, our section grid. Here's the newsletter. We do need to add, well, do we? My plan for the newsletter is that we will add MailChimp. And they're going to have some additional form fields for us, like for a honeypot spam type thing. So we'll get that when we actually get to that part. I'm not going to worry about it now. So let's do a section with a class of a section. And then this is going to be, this was section newsletter. This is section grid. So let's call this section blog. So we'll have global styles for a class called section. And then we'll be able to do some additional targeting specifically for a blog. We can use the section element because we do have a heading here. So I'm going to call this an H2 recent blog. So we'll say H2, secondary heading, recent blog. And then I'm going to do a div with a class of wrap. And this is going to be the container that kind of holds everything in here. Probably be like 75 rems, which is about 1200 pixels. And then I'm going to make each of these an article with a class of article. Yeah. We'll do article, the class of article, and then we've got an image and a title. So this is going to be our H3. And then this is what I like to call meta information. So this would be like, the admin would be the author. Then we've got a time. So we'll use the time element. Flower would probably be like a category, and then a comment count. So that's pretty normal for a blog. Then we have an excerpt or a description. And then we have a read more. This is very CMS WordPress-y type layout. If you don't know, I started my career as a WordPress developer. So in those early days of freelancing, I was building a lot of custom WordPress themes, and I would buy templates and Photoshop mockups that were very WordPress focused. So let's do a figure with the class of figure. And then we've got an image. And then I have just right now like a gray box for a placeholder image. So I'll do some image sourcing probably this week. Placeholder image. And then let's do an H3 with the class of tertiary heading. And this is an inspirational blog about flowers. Okay. Blog about flowers. Sure. Sure, Jan. Whatever you say. Okay, and then let's just do a div with a class of meta. It's like our little metadata. And then I'm going to put each of these things in a span. Well, not the date. I'm going to put this in a time element. A span is an inline element. The time element is also an inline element. So these will all line up. But if you were to take this then and build out, say, a WordPress theme, you could easily inject whatever you need into each of those elements, right? Or maybe you have an API, or you're using, React or Angular or whatever. So this would be a span with a class of author. So we'll say admin. And then this would be the time element, date time. So we can just put today's date, 2026. February 21, so that's Feb. Hang on, how you spell Feb? February. Is that how you spell February? Gosh darn it. How do you spell? Why don't I know? I feel like I'm missing an R. I am missing an R. R-U-A-R-Y. R-U-A-R-Y. February 21st, 2026. Span with a class, category. So that would be like a category. Flower. And then span with a class of comments. 10 comments. And these will all line up nicely. We can even go ahead and put in our little slashes. So there would be a slash here, a slash here, and a slash here. And you could also do the slashes dynamically with like a pseudo element, but you can do it like this too. And I don't even have this open yet because we're just not there yet. Okay, so now we have a description and a read more. So we'll just do a class with some lorem ipsum. I don't know, maybe 35 words. And then I'm going to do paragraph tags with an anchor element. I think that's fine. Paragraph tag, block level element, anchor element, by default inline element. So that gives us a nice block level element. And then we'll just say read more ... And I think that we'll just give this a class of read more. Read more. Yeah. Okay. That works. And then let's just copy this. Okay, there's our section. I'm going to do this markup. Oh, I'm being forced. I feel like I'm being forced to do markup that is going to look like a slider, because there's 3 sliders on the home page. I don't want to make a slider, but I feel like we kind of have to for this. And you know what? We've done it before. So, yeah. And it doesn't have to... Okay, fine. We'll make a slider. And let's see here. Let's see what this conversation is all about. And so Malik says it's dogs that I'm very familiar with. It's 2 majestic dogs that look just like Heidi, but they are white and brown. Yeah, I'll check it. Yeah, DM me after the stream. And you've started working on your personal website. Good. Just don't overthink the personal website. It's okay if it sucks. I'm not saying that yours sucks. I'm saying that mine have sucked. And that's okay. You have to have that experience. You have to just go for it. You have to like put code to paper. I want to say put pen to paper, but you know what I mean. You just have to jump in and start executing on your ideas. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be finished, but it's also never going to be really good until you've worked through some of your ideas. So just go for it. If you're struggling with a website for yourself, you just got to go for it. Thank you. I appreciate that. I am very proud of my website. I tried the site that I had for 10 years. And 10 years ago, it was a great site. Like, it got me so much freelance business. People would call me and say that they saw my website and they were like, you have the aesthetic that we love and that we want for our site. I mean, I can't even describe how good that made me feel at the time. And it got me a lot of business. And then I got the job at St. Thomas and I worked there for 7 years. And I tried probably a half a dozen times over those 7 years to redesign my site. And I wasn't motivated to do it. I didn't feel any inspiration. So I totally understand that feeling. And then a year ago, when I decided to quit St. Thomas and go back to freelancing, consulting, and just, doing YouTube, I was like, all right, we need a new website. Like, we have to do this. And I took those beginning steps on stream. Monique knows because she was here over a year ago. I remember it was like December 2024 where I did a whole series of streams on building a style guide and like figuring out how to do just get some ideas down. So if Malik asked me about doing a full process of building out a design. Maybe we should do that again, because I do want to build a site for my practice layouts idea. And I want to do it, but I have no inspiration for it. So maybe when we finish this, I should take my own advice and start working on a process to like build a style guide and get some inspiration. I mean, that's a good idea. And then because it's been over a year since I've done that and I have a bigger audience now, I have new people here. So that's not a bad idea. And I can show you guys what I do to get inspired. So do a startup. No. Decline. No startups for me. I'm a one-woman show. I mean, it's just me and my laptop and whatever client wants to hire me. That's it. It's in ChatGPT, of course. So it's just me. I'm a one-woman show. I've been part of startup culture. It's not my favorite thing to be a part of. I'm not built for it. Trust me. So Saeed is here. He says, I am your new subscriber and I am a junior developer. I really like your channel. Your teaching method is so powerful and amazing. Wow, thank you. Saeed, that is such a nice compliment. I really appreciate it, and thank you for subscribing. Um, my educational philosophy, as it were, is that you learn by doing. And when I'm a self-taught developer, and when I was learning how to do this, it was incredibly helpful for me to just watch other people work and hear them talk about what they were thinking and problem solving. Specifically, Chris Coyier and CSS Tricks back in the day. He rebuilt CSS Tricks and he recorded the entire process. And I watched every single video. I learned so much from just listening to him talk his way through a process. So that is how I like to do it. Okay, let's get back to it. I love you guys. You're the best. Okay, so the best way to build a slider, in my opinion, is to set it up like an unordered list. That makes the CSS and the JavaScript actually pretty easy. So let's set this up like it is an unordered list, and then we'll go ahead and put in our arrows and buttons. So this is also a nice compliment. Thank you. Well, hopefully we can keep building the audience, right? Hopefully we can keep building the audience. And here's the thing. I'm just gonna, before I continue, it is extremely unlikely that you are ever going to see me build a course. I can't. This channel is not going to be a funnel for courses. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have like a premium offering or some sort of a membership type offering, but the core of this channel is going to be exactly what we're doing now. Exactly what we're doing now. I am not going to deviate from what we're doing now. So I'm just saying. Okay. So this is going to be a div because there isn't a heading, and you really only use section element when there's a heading. So let's do a div, and we'll say testimonials. And then let's do an unordered list, and we'll give this a class of slider. I don't know. I think that this markup will be fine. We'll find out when we're actually styling and writing the JavaScript. So we have a figure with an image. We have a block quote and a citation. So we're going to refresh our memory on the markup for block quote. There's a block quote element. There's a citation element. I think that it's okay to put the citation inside the block quote. We could actually go back to our JavaScript go back to our GitHub and check a previous project for that because I don't remember. Okay, so we'll do figure with a class of figure. And then we've got an image here. And yes, I'm going to put in our placeholder just for now. And then block quote. And then I think we can just do this. We're going to check. Louis, well done. How about this? Heidi Holden. Oh, yes. And then Heidi can be oh, I love it. Heidi Holden, buyer, author. And then let's do this. Buyer, author. And then this will give us the ability to do some styling. So let's check our GitHub quick, because I know we just did this. don't think it was the homepage clone. Was it the category filter? I don't think so. It wasn't this. I think it was this. Yep, it was this right here. And what I remember really liking about this is that we were able to do this in a way where, we didn't have to cap whatever the testimonial was. This section could grow pretty seamlessly based on the amount of content. So here's the slider controls. Here's the unordered list. And then we had a block quote. And then we had the citation as I guess, kind of a sibling of the block quote. And I'm pretty sure a citation is by default an inline element. Let's double check. MDN cite. So this makes me think they put it inside paragraph tags, so I think this is an inline element by default. So here's cite. Well, what is the user agent style sheet? Font style italic. Doesn't really give us a display property in the user agent style sheet. It's inline. So I'm going to take this out of the block quote and we'll make it a sibling element. And then I'm not going to put these around paragraph tags, which is what I did last time. Well, the block quote is a block level element, and then I put paragraph tags around this content. But I'm not going to put paragraph tags around this. We'll just style it to be a block level element. And then we can skip the extra markup. And then, yeah, we'll just do this. And then we'll put some different lengths of quotes in here, just to keep it interesting. Because we want our CSS to support a different amount of content unless you make a decision to cap it. So you could always do that. I tend to err on the side of don't try to control the amount of content unless you're really specifically working in a CMS where your leadership team says, like, cap this at a certain number of characters. That's totally cool. You could do that with CSS, JavaScript, whatever, however it's dynamic. But I think as a build, it should support anything. And then that decision is made later on down the line. That is my personal philosophy. So, and let's see here. Rahul says, once I watched PSD to HTML video from some Chinese channel, a female instructor was building the website and it suddenly clicked. Those were hard days. Yeah, I remember. I mean, did I tell you guys like when I first started learning in 2009, 2010, I thought CSS was really hard. I just thought it was so hard. And obviously the resources back then did not exist like what exists today. The big place where you could learn to do stuff was lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. And I would watch the CSS courses on lynda.com, and they were hours long. Like they were 6, 7, 8 hours long. It was so overwhelming. And they made a lot of assumptions, even though it was supposed to be like a beginning CSS course. They made a lot of assumptions. Everything was in Dreamweaver. I didn't get it at all. I thought it was really hard. And at one point I kind of gave up, and I was like, that's when I was starting graduate school the first time. And I was like, I think that I'm just going to be like a content person, like a writer. And yeah, it was really hard. I thought it was really, really hard. And then that's when I got the Murok's book, the HTML5 and CSS book. And in graduate school, I was required to take a beginning web design class. And that class totally changed my life. That book changed my life. It made a lot of things click. It's hard in the beginning. So if you're new to this and you're just learning, it's hard. It was hard for all of us. It's going to be hard for you. Persevere, my friends, persevere, because if you keep going, eventually it will click. And the best way to learn is by building projects. You can take all the courses you want. Courses are going to introduce you to ideas and concepts. The real learning comes from building projects, especially in front end. So Syed says, I am confident that your channel will surpass 1 million subscribers very soon. So maintaining this level of consistency would be highly beneficial. Honestly, if growth had a speed limit, your channel would already be getting a ticket. Oh my gosh. You know just what to say. I am thinking that the people who are on live, we're having a frequency match. At Angela, create a Discord server for ourselves. That would be great. And Rahul says, I am also from lynda.com era. Yeah, it was a very good resource, but their approach to their approach was a little overwhelming because so many of their courses were like 8, 9, 10 hours long. And when you're new, that's tough. It's tough to like gird your loins and get ready for something that's going to last for 8 hours. So I want to talk about the Discord server. I had a Discord server about a year ago and I shut it down. I will be honest with you guys. I don't like Discord. I think there's a lot going on Discord that is concerning. And it's not for me. So I understand why people like Discord and spend time there. And this is, you should spend time wherever you want to spend your time. I personally don't spend my time on Discord. This is the community. The live stream is the community. I post updates on my community tab. I would prefer to grow an audience on Instagram. I know that that's not like a place for everybody to talk all at once. But that's where I prefer to grow my audience, is on Instagram and then during the streams themselves. I feel like I'm pretty consistent with my streaming. I did 2 days a week for a year and a half, and now I've bumped that up to 4 days a week. We got off to a great start in January. I streamed 19 days in January, more than half the month. And then we got off to a bumpy start in February because I had a sick animal. My dog had pancreatitis. And I am not going to describe what that experience was like. You can Google it, but it was rough for both of us. She is doing great. She is back on the mend, and we are back to our 4-day-a-week schedule. And I could not be more pleased with the pace of how I'm doing things on YouTube. I don't know if I'm going to have 1 million subscribers. That would obviously be amazing, but I feel very good about growing the channel this year, and I'm here for it. So whatever I need to do to earn the subs and keep people coming back to hang out, I'm here for it. So as long as it's vanilla. So there's that. Okay. So, and again, thank you for the compliments. I do really, really appreciate it. It means a lot because there have been times where I was like, is anybody watching? Is anybody watching? Yeah. So, and you know, we persevered. So, okay. So here's our footer. We've got 4 sections. I have a tendency to do in the footer asides. Asides are like related, indirectly related. That's what an aside kind of is. Let's look at MDN and refresh our memory on what some of these things mean. Aside. The aside element. The aside element represents a portion of a document whose content is only indirectly related to the document's main content. Asides are frequently presented as sidebars or call-out boxes. So to me, asides are perfect for these little call-outs here. And we're not going to do a Flickr stream. Let's do an Instagram. We'll do a little Instagram grid here, a little 3x2. 2x3, whatever we want to call it, 3x2 Instagram grid. So this will have to be in, well, this is going to, actually this can be an aside because this will be a nav element right here. So how do we want to do this? Aside, 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 aside. And then I would think that these would all be H3s. Can I have 2 H3s in one aside? Does that matter? Do not use the aside element to parenthesized text, as this kind of text is considered part of the main flow. This example uses aside to mark up a paragraph in an article. The paragraph is only indirectly related to the main article. Result, technical summary, tag omission, permitted parents. An aside element must not be a descendant of an address element. Implicit ARIA rule, permitted ARIA rules, DOM interface. Doesn't say anything about content categories, flow content, sectioning content, palpable content. What does that mean? Sectioning content. Sectioning content, a subset of flow content, creates a section in the current outline, defining the scope of header and footer elements. The sectioning elements are article, aside, nav, and section. This is interesting, but we don't have time for this now. Wait. There's a meta element. Why didn't I know this? The meta HTML element represents metadata that cannot be, Angela speaking. The meta HTML element represents metadata that cannot be represented by other meta-related elements, such as base, link, script, style, or title. So this is stuff that goes, okay, duh. Yes, I know what meta is. This is stuff that goes in the head. Okay, I was thinking something different. Let's just do this. It doesn't say anything about headings inside of an aside. Okay, oh, gosh darn it. Can I have 2 H3s inside an aside element? This is such a perfect thing for ChatGPT. Yes, that's completely valid HTML. An aside is just a sectioning element. It can contain any flow content. Oh, okay. That makes sense when you think about a sidebar being an aside and having multiple content pieces, right? There's no rule that limits you to one H3 inside it. What matters is document outline and hierarchy, not how many headings per element. For example, an aside, H3 related articles, H3 resources. Okay, that's perfectly semantic if both sections are logically grouped inside the aside. The real question to ask yourself, are those two headings representing two distinct sections within the aside? So that's yes, because one is about us, the other is this navigation set of links, or one single concept that accidentally got split. Okay, so we can confirm that, but that's optional unless it improves clarity, so yes. All right, this is exactly the way that I tend to use ChatGPT. It's to get clarity on structure, hierarchy. If you have questions about accessibility or a semantic, just any semantic way to do things. Okay, so here's our footer. We're going to do an aside. And we'll just give this a class of aside. Why not? It'll be the footer aside. And then we've got, we'll do a div and we'll say, I'm just going to say item, keep it generic. Then we've got an H3, which is a tertiary, tertiary heading, and that's about us. And then we'll just do a paragraph, some lorem ipsum. And then we'll do another div that is an item and an H3 that is a tertiary heading. Let's put this on one line. And this is connect with us. And then this is going to be a nav element because this is a set of links. A set of links is navigation. Let's borrow this. So our header navigation looks a little different than our footer navigation. But structurally, it's still kind of the same. Whoops, what happened here? Structurally, it's still kind of the same. So we need to borrow some of our header social navigation styles and make sure that they will also work for our footer. Whoops. So we'll say, so this will just be the footer social navigation, and then whatever styles we need to do for this, we can add them. Here's where we're going to have to be careful. We've already decided that we are going to hide this on mobile. And when we do that, if we're using the same markup and class names for the footer, it's also going to be hidden on the footer. So we have to make sure that we continue to show it on the footer. So we just have to be mindful of that. We just have to make sure when we QA that we're not also hiding this on mobile. We need that to be there on mobile. So, okay, good. I like it. So here's our first aside. So we'll do another aside with a class of aside. And I'm just going to do an unordered list. Technically this feels like navigation. It feels like navigation, doesn't it? To have these links. So let's do a nav element. We'll give this a class of list nav, I guess. And then this will be an li with an anchor element. Home portfolio blog. Okay, so everything from the main nav, but no submenus here. So, okay, that's fair. Home. How many are there? 7. Okay, portfolio blog galleries. Portfolio blog galleries. About services contact. About services contact. All right. Oh, and we need an H3 page links. H3 tertiary heading page links. All right. And I think we can kind of do the same thing here. The difference is that there's going to be a span with a count here, right? So we've got April, March, February. Okay, so, and it's in descending order. So this would be April, and then there'd be like a span with a class of count. Whoops, that was a bad word. Sorry. Yikes. That was not intentional. Ugh. Okay. So April, let's say we'll just go 2025. April, March 2025. Span, count. Accidents happen. Yikes. I've seen much worse on YouTube. I've said much worse. Let's be honest. I've said much worse. Not on YouTube, but yeah. Okay, it doesn't matter, Angela. And Saeed is asking about the canvas element and how it differs from SVGs. That's a good question. We'll take a look. We'll take a look together. I'm almost done with the footer, and then we'll take a look. I think that's a good question. And then we'll do a nice little grid of images. And yep, we have our heading. Okay. Aside. You know what else I think we need? I think we are going to need a wrap, right? To hold all this in. class of aside. And then this would be, so we'll have an H3, again with a tertiary heading. And I'm going to call this the Instagram feed. And then we'll do a div, oops, with a class of, let's just do the IG grid. And then we'll do a figure with a class of figure, an image, and I'm just gonna put in our placeholder for now. And then let's do 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be our little grid. And then we just have this bottom section here. So this top section is clearly inside of a wrap, but we've got borders that extend all the way to the edge. So we would probably put a border, that top border would go at the top of the footer, but we would want this bottom section to be outside the wrap. So we could put then a top border at the top of this next section. So we'll just do a div with a class of copyright. And we'll put this in a paragraph. And so we'll say, and copy. And then I'm going to do a span with an ID of copyright. And then this will be dynamic. We'll do a little JavaScript to grab that year. And then we'll say Colorado, all rights reserved. Okay. I think instead of this, I'm just going to put my name because I like to link back to my own personal site. Yeah. We'll do an M dash. And that can be our copyright statement. So we would have a border here that extends the full width, and then we would have a border here that extends the full width. So we would just do border top on each of those, and then these are inside the wrap, and then the footer and this are both full width. Yeah, and then this would just be centered. This would be centered. Well, really, we would just center align the text, right? I mean, we maybe don't even need a div here. We could just do class copyright on the paragraph tag, right? Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I don't even think we need a div here. Let's see here. So Saeed is asking the canvas element and how it differs from SVG. Can a footer element be used inside of an article or a section? If yes, explain a real world example. Well, we'll look quickly. The Canvas API. I'll be honest, I don't know a ton about the Canvas API. The Canvas API provides a means for drawing graphics via JavaScript and the HTML Canvas element. Among other things, it can be used for animation, game graphics, data visualization, photo manipulation, and real-time video processing. So this is a little bit beyond. So to be fair, this squarely falls into the scope of this channel here. But if you know anything about me, JavaScript is the thing that I am the least confident about and probably the least knowledgeable about. So we could definitely spend some time learning more about the Canvas element and the Canvas API. I can't answer this question because I just don't know enough about it. I use SVGs on this channel all the time. I think they're amazing. I love them. Clearly it's different because SVGs don't require JavaScript, right? They are XML markup. So I guess my best answer to that question is that based on what I see here, SVGs are XML. The Canvas API clearly is doing something much different that requires a bit of JavaScript. Can a footer element be used inside of an article or a section? I don't think so. Again, I think that's a great question for ChatGPT. Let's ask it. And Rahul has some input here. He says, Canvas API lets you do a lot of things. It's on the creative side of things. You want to look something cool done using Canvas, check this website, brunosimon.com. I think you've talked about Bruno Simon before. So yeah, I think Rahul has a lot more experience with Canvas than I do, or has at least looked into it more than I have. So let's ask ChatGPT. I think this is a great question for ChatGPT, and I think most of us are using AI at this point to help us with our coding. I don't so much need AI to help me write code. I need it to help answer questions around these types of things, like when I'm thinking about semantically about the right way to use an element, or is something accessible, or is it a best practice for search engine optimization, that type of thing. So can a footer element be used inside of I think the answer is going to be no. Inside an article or section, but I could be surprised. Oh, yes, absolutely. Footer is not just for the bottom of the entire page. It can be used inside an article, a section, a main, even an aside. It represents footer information for its nearest sectioning ancestor. Example, inside an article. So we have an article with an H2, how I QA my own sites, paragraph tags, content goes here, footer, written and published by. That footer belongs to the article, not the whole page. Interesting. Example, inside a section. Again, section must have a heading, so this has an H2. And then we have an article. This was helpful, posted by. Interesting, totally valid. What footer is meant for? It usually contains author info, metadata, tags, related links, copyright, read more links. Interesting, comment counts. It should contain information about its parent section, not random content. The mental model, footer is to a section what a signature is to a letter. So yes, using it inside article or section is correct and semantic. Did you know that and ask that question just to get me to learn that I should be using it? From what I know, footer can be used inside any wrapper element, header also. That's interesting. I don't use it that way. So let's ask a question here about let's ask a question here. Should I use the footer element in this markup? Short answer, yes, this is a good place for footer. All of this, the author, date, category, comment count, and read more link is metadata or supplementary info about the article. That's exactly what footer inside an article is for. Right now, your meta div is structurally just another div. Semantically, it's actually article footer content. I'd structure it like this. So it wants us to put all of this together. Why this is better? Okay. So we would just be moving this stuff down below the content. Whoops. Down below the content. So here, sorry, I thought you guys could see that. So this is what it's saying to do. Why this is better. It clearly communicates that this content belongs to the article. Screen readers understand the structural intent. It improves semantic clarity without changing your layout. It makes your markup feel more real-world blog accurate. You don't have to use footer, but this is exactly the kind of case where it makes sense. If you were building this on Stream, this would be one of those subtle semantic upgrades that separates works from nose HTML. Right. I'm on Stream now, actually. Oh, good. Okay, so let's copy this. There's so much space. Too much space. I don't like all the space. All right, that works. So I'm going to say that we actually don't need this div. We can clean this up a little bit more. I'm actually just going to give the footer the class of meta. Yeah, that works. Yeah, Rahul's been here for, gosh, a while. More than 6 months, maybe. Lots of experience. Adds a lot to these streams. Is good at knowing, is good at letting me struggle through something on my own and knowing when to add helpful things in the chat. So we love Rahul. We also love Monique Robinson, and we love Malik. We love all the mods. So, okay. Well, I think that we have a good thing going here. This is our home page. So let's go ahead and get this committed, and then let's just start to write a little bit of our global CSS styles. Let's get set up. We need to grab our fonts. We need to kind of do a preliminary color palette. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's see here. Oops. Let's commit this first. Home page HTML is done. All right. So let's start. We'll do a style.css, and then let's do a script.js. We'll get those linked. We'll grab some normalize. Normalize, if you haven't used it before, is a browser reset. It normalizes. Every browser is a little bit different. It used to be a much bigger deal than it is today. Browsers are pretty similar at this point, but they do have some nuances. So it literally just kind of smooths things out, normalizes things. I don't make any changes to normalize. I used to go through and delete things or change things, and I don't anymore. I just download whatever the newest version is, I add it, and then I move on. So you may have a different approach or think that there's a better approach. I've literally never been criticized for that, but I have seen other people say, oh, you should be doing XYZ if you're using a browser reset, and I don't. So we've got normalize, we've got style.css, we've got our script.js. We should figure out what font this is, and then we can go grab that from Google Fonts. So let me open up Affinity. And we'll just add this. There we go. And yeah, clearly we don't have the fonts that we need here. So let's figure out what they are. Wow, it's not even telling us. It usually says what's missing. Tinos. What is Tinos? Oh, look at that. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. We learned so many things here. You will learn more here by accident than you ever will by design. For real. I don't think we need, I think Open Sans is from our last project, but let's just check and see what else we got going on here. Well, let's look at, hang on, let's look at, is everything Tinos? It kind of looks like it, right? Everything is a serif font, If that's our only font, I mean, that's completely fine, but it looks like it might be. Let's do it. It just keeps things so easy. So let's just do the one. And if we feel like as we continue building, we run into something that doesn't look quite right, we'll explore that then. But I'm good with this. So we'll get our embed code, copy this. What styles are there, just out of curiosity? So there's a regular, a bold, a regular italic, and a bold italic. Interesting. So we have like two choices, 400 and 700. Okay, well, that's good to know. So I'm going to put that first. And one moment. Okay. So there's our fonts. We don't need this quite yet. So let's just do a few global styles. Said says, I'm learning Spring Boot. What advice can you give me? I don't have a lot of advice related to Spring Boot. I'm not really a full stack developer. I've done few full stack apps. Spring Boot is for Java, right? Am I right about that? Hang on. What am I thinking of? Spring Boot. Spring Boot, yeah, that's what I thought. It's a Java-based framework. I had to use Spring Boot, well, when I was taking a Java class, when I was getting my degree. I don't have a lot of advice for you. I'm going to tell you what I think is going to apply to anything when you're new to learning something, is that what separates you from the pros is practice. So if you're learning something new, you need to practice. You need to find projects that help you apply those concepts and principles, and that's where the real learning is. Building things, making your own projects. So that's my best advice for anything new that you're learning. I hope that helps. So let's write some of our global variables, and I know you can do lots of different types of variables. I tend to just stick to defining color variables in the root element. So let's just, and I don't have like a color palette picked out. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow because I do need to do some image sourcing. So let's just start with this. We'll just do a white. And we'll do a black. And I tend to just do like a dark charcoal gray, not a pure black. And then we'll do like a medium gray. And these are just colors that I like to use. You can use whatever works best for you. And then maybe like a, well, we'll stick with this for now. I mean, we don't really have a lot of color here anyways, do we? Maybe this is going to be, we have this weird orange color. Well, let's see what this weird orange color is. And then we'll check and see if it's accessible. What is this? Why aren't you showing me colors? Is this an image? What is this? What is this? Salmon? Is that how you spell salmon? Yes, S-A-L-M-O-N. Salmon. Okay, we'll check and see what the story is with the accessibility of this kind of salmony orange color. I don't think it's going to work, but let's go ahead and just do some basic styles. So for our HTML element, I'm going to say box sizing. We're going to change this to box sizing border box. And then we'll do a couple of like wild cards. So we'll do, oops, before and after pseudo elements. Gosh darn it, Angela. After. Also change this to box sizing border box. The default is content box and I want border box. And then for the body element, I usually say padding 0, margin 0, padding margin. Let's grab that Google Fonts. So we'll grab this just so I have a reference to it. And Saeed is saying, what is your current position and what are you doing, job, etc., or freelancing? It shouldn't be orange, it should be gray. Gray relates a lot to the page. So I don't know if we're going to use the orange, but the orange is part of the design. So we're going to at least check and see if it's accessible. And I do try to stay true to the design. I don't love the orange, but we're at least going to check. And maybe we can find a different accent color. So my current position is that I am a full-time freelancer and contractor and content creator on YouTube. So yeah, and at my last job, I was at I worked for the University of St. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota. I was there for 7 years, and I was the manager of front-end development. So here's Tinos. So we're going to set this Tinos regular as the default font on the body. And we'll say font size 100%. And then I feel like we should do, usually they give it to us. What's the auto sizing that they usually give us? Let's see if it's in one of our old projects. Font optical sizing auto. I wonder why they didn't give that to us. I'm going to put it in. And then we'll set the background color of the page to white. So here's our default styles. Let's check the accessibility of this orange color. I think I know what it's going to be. So color, contrast, checker. So our background would be this. Our foreground would be this. Oh, interesting. That passes. I wasn't expecting that. Look how close it is to AAA. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to fail. Does not pass with white. So we couldn't use this orange with white. I was not expecting that. I mean, black works pretty well with a lot of things, assuming they're light enough, I guess. Maybe that's, yeah, that makes sense now that I'm saying it out loud. Okay, well, we know we have the option. I agree it's not like the prettiest color. I was thinking something more along the lines of like a green. We don't need, we literally need like one accent color. Let's think about it. Let's do some image sourcing, and I bet we can find a color that we like doing some image sourcing. So, and Rahul says, do you know about variable fonts? What do you mean? I don't, I guess the answer is no, because I don't understand the question. How do you mean? Let's see here. Hang on, we already have a ChatGPT going. Can you explain, oops, you explain variable, variable fonts. Do you literally mean defining fonts as variables here? Is that what you mean? So like defining how, let's do this. Can you suggest a good way to define variable fonts in the root of a style sheet? Let's see. Yes. Yes, and this is a great thing to show on stream because most people either ignore variable fonts or overcomplicate them. The clean approach is define your font family as a variable, define weight tokens as variables, optionally define access values if you're using them directly. Keep it intentional, not clever. So, font primary, simple, clear, reusable everywhere. Step 2, define weight tokens. This is the important part. Instead of hard coding 400, 600, 700 everywhere, font weight regular, font weight medium, font weight semi-bold, font weight bold. Then use them like okay. If you want to lean into variable font power, there's font weight, font width, and font slant. Then font variation settings. But here's the important nuance. If you're only adjusting weight, use font weight. Don't use font variation settings unless you need axes that don't have native CSS properties. That's a subtle but strong distinction to mention on stream. What I would personally recommend, clean and practical, root, font primary, font weight regular, font weight medium, font weight bold, short, intentional, system-like. If you want to elevate this even more for your audience, explain that variable fonts reduce HTTP requests because you load one file instead of multiple weight files. That's a strong performance talking point the beginners rarely hear. This is exactly your kind. Okay. No, I am not talking about defining fonts in variable. Oh, okay. Some Google fonts don't have the option to check weights. For example, Tunnel Sans. I don't see something called Tunnel Sans. Okay, Tunnel Sans. Funnel Sans. Oh, I think I understand what you're saying. You don't have, some Google fonts don't have the option to check weights. Yeah, we've actually run into this before where I was like, why can't I choose which one? I can either choose one value. Oh, yeah. Okay. Or I get the full access. How do I use variable fonts when Google won't let me, when Google gives me the full access? Ah, this is where people get confused. When Google Fonts gives you full access, it just means we're serving the entire variable range for this axis. It does not change how you use it in CSS. Yeah. So I just recently, Rahul is saying, I just recently learned about this. It's interesting. You can choose full access. Then you can do font weight 456 or 527, hence the name variable fonts. Every font has their own axis. But I do think, even though the question that I asked isn't initially what you meant, I do think that ChatGPT gave us some interesting information about defining variable fonts. So I think there's that. But let's read this here. What Google is actually giving you in your screenshot: italic 0 to 1 full access, weight 1 value, 300 selected. If you switch to full access, Google will serve something like font weight 100, presumably to 900. That means the file supports the entire weight range from 100 to 900. That's it. How you actually use it. If the font supports the full weight axis, you do not need font variation settings for weight. You just use normal CSS. That's it. Variable font magic happens behind the scenes. So I'll be honest, I was not going to use this. It just feels like so much more work than is what is necessary. When do you use font variation settings? Only when the axis has no native CSS property. You're adjusting custom axes like width, slant, grad, etc. But again, for weight, prefer font weight. That's the clean professional approach. Okay, I don't need talking points. If you want a clean root setup, okay, so so first of all, this is cool because we have run into this before. It was a recent project where we were picking the fonts, and I was sitting here saying, why can't I go down the list and choose the fonts I want? And it was this exactly, and I did not understand that. So this is good to understand. For our current project, we are being given 4 specific styles. It is not an axis, right? So I'm going to stick with what I normally do because we have 4 things that we can use, like point blank, end of story. Which honestly, I'm thinking about, do we even need an italic? Do we have italic anywhere here? If we don't need it, I'm not going to use it. I don't see it on the home page. Here is our blog page. Here's our contact page. I don't see italicized text anywhere. Here is our portfolio page. So let's simplify. Let's simplify this. And then here, we don't need. I like to copy these just to have them on hand so I remember what to call things. And then beyond that, I don't think I'm going to get too crazy with actually defining variables here. I've got two choices, 400 and 700, and that's it. And I'm cool with that. And then let's make a note here. This is AA accessible normal text with black. So we remember, and then that's kind of it. So I'm thinking that I'm gonna stop here for today. That's what I'm thinking, because I want to do some image sourcing. I want to see if I can find a different color. Should we just do some images now? Let's do some images now. We got time. Let's just go grab some images. Unsplash. And let's look in Colorado. See what they come up with. Beautiful landscapes, of course. Ooh, this is pretty. Of course it's premium. I like this. So let's just grab some images. And we'll optimize these as well. Projects, Colorado, images. I like this. I like yellow. Let's do this. Thank you, Malik. I appreciate that. And Rahul says, I meant for some fonts, if supported, Google Font is now giving the variable option. I was also confused. Yeah. Well, we're going to run into another font choice that's got that variable option. And when we do, we will absolutely, use it. I will take advantage of that and define some variables also, because I think that would be a good move, and it would be a good thing to explain to people, because I definitely fumbled over that and was very confused myself the last time we ran into that. And I can't think of what project it was that we ran into, because we're honestly blasting through projects so quickly at this point. But we're going to run into another variable font here soon, I'm sure. Let's see here. Oh, I like this. I like this. Let's do some fun landscapey things. I like this. I've driven through Colorado. I've driven through the Southwest, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, Arizona. I've driven through the mountains in Arizona. It's beautiful. It's very, very pretty. If you ever get the chance to do it, I highly recommend it. These all look like Bob Ross paintings. I like this too. Oh, how pretty that is. So how many do we have? That's 8. We'll go ahead and optimize these. And Sai said, what advice do you have for a second-year university student, computer science student? Well, what should we spend more time on? I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you need practice. You need practice. So you should be spending more time building projects, coming up with ideas, get your assignments done, prepare for your exams, and just start working on your own ideas because, well, I think everybody should do client work at some point in their life because clients will ask you to do things that you never thought of. But you also need to execute your own ideas because nobody will ask you to do the things that you are thinking about. So it's kind of win-win. So if you have an opportunity to do a little bit of client work or freelancing, don't make a career out of it if it's not something you're interested in. But it's just good to learn how to deal with people and to learn how to translate other people's ideas, things that, like I said, you wouldn't necessarily think of. And you should always be working on your own ideas. It doesn't need to be a startup. It doesn't need to be the next big app. It just needs to be an idea, something that you are thinking about and that you want to figure out how to build. That is just the best way to learn. Courses will introduce you to new ideas and verbiage and vernacular and what else? What's the word I'm looking for? Syntax. But they don't really teach you how exactly to do the problem solving. The real learning and problem solving comes from working on projects. So you really need to work on projects. That's what I want people to do. And if you're in front end specifically, you should be doing what I'm doing. You should just be opening index.html and style.css because I'm always going to promote vanilla as a good way to learn. And you should just be building layouts and learning how to write CSS and please understand the difference between a div and a span. I need you to understand the difference between a div and a span. I want you to know what display inline block is, what display inline is, and what display block is, and how those three things are different and why they're different and when you use them. I want you to understand position relative and position absolute, and how things are positioned absolute relative to the container that is position relative. That's really important. That's aggressive positioning, but it's absolutely appropriate and it is absolutely still being used today. And all of those things get rendered natively by the browser. So understand a little bit of specificity, inheritance, cascade, know what a user agent style sheet is so you know where to find the default display property of something. This is a really good example. I struggled for years styling SVGs. I mean, what a pain in the ass SVGs are to style sometimes. And on stream one day, this had to have been, not even a year ago. I'm sure it was less than a year ago. I finally said out loud, is an SVG display inline or display block? And I checked on MDN. It was display inline. My head exploded. Once I figured that out and I started putting in as a global style that SVG should be display block, it changed everything. It literally solved years of SVGs being a giant pain in my ass. One moment, my nose is running. So that's the stuff that I want people to know about front end development. I just want to help you out and get you comfortable with some really basic things. So Yeah, you absolutely are going to probably have to know React and Tailwind to get a really good paying job as a front end developer. And trust me, I want that for you. I want you to get paid well, to add value to your organization, and to love what you do. But the reality is that junior developers in particular, or any developer new at an organization, you're going to get those backlog tasks. The things that are important enough to keep on the backlog, sometimes for years, but not always important enough to pull your best devs off whatever the current project is to go work on. That stuff always gets saved for the juniors and the new guy. Agencies in particular, definitely at organizations, but I experience this most at agencies. The bread and butter of agency work is not the brand new shiny build. The bread and butter is that agencies keep their clients on and do maintenance. They sell them maintenance and hosting packages. I do this also as a freelancer. A lot of my recurring income comes from the client that I built a WordPress website for 10 years ago, who pays me every month to do the hosting, the plugin updates, and occasionally do content updates. Agencies are the exact same way. So if times are lean, if business is slow and they don't have that backlog of new builds, they're going to give the junior devs and the new devs the content updates, or just the small improvements, or whatever, update the photo gallery for the plastic surgery office or whatever, right? Those are often going to be legacy code bases, sites that were built years ago, but they're still perfectly good websites, and the agency, collects that fee every month to continue maintaining that site. And it's going to probably, like I said, be legacy code, spaghetti CSS files. It's not going to be the brand new shiny React app or Tailwind app. Knowing a little bit of vanilla CSS, understanding small ways to improve semantic value so it's still getting good SEO juice. That's what this channel is about. It's about helping you understand how the browser works natively, and I promise you, it will complement everything that you do with React or Angular or Bootstrap or Foundation or Tailwind. I promise you it will. So that's really the whole point of this channel. And then Rahul is also, I'll go back here. So Rahul says, going back to the font conversation, I'm using Funnel Sans for my personal project. I used full access, then I can use any weight between 300 and 800. Only one file is pulled, and the weight can be fine-tuned between the range. It's awesome. That's good to know. So we'll definitely dive into that when we run into this again, because we will run into it again. And Rahul was also responding to, I think, Saeed's question, what should I spend more time on? Learning something new every day. Totally agree. And if possible, could I consider doing this? This is a front-end mentor challenge. Let's see here. Single page developer portfolio. Yeah, for sure. Is this a free one? It looks like it is. Let's look at these. Yeah, we could do this. Should we do this next? How about if we'll do this next after we finish this one, because I don't have anything else planned. And Saeed says, as for I understand, the gist of your statement is that you should be focusing on the project and core knowledge. That's my best advice, yes. And again, to be clear, I'm in no way, shape, or form telling anybody, don't learn React. Tailwind is a waste of your time. I am not telling you that. Those are obviously important things. But here's the thing. That is already being done on YouTube. Part of my strategy here is that I am carving out a little niche for myself on YouTube, right? And I think being a vanilla channel is somewhat unique on YouTube. So, and I also happen to love it. So there are plenty of people on YouTube teaching Tailwind and React and all those things much better than I ever could. I'm picking a lane and I'm staying in my lane. And so I think what I'm doing here will complement your React, Tailwind, Bootstrap, that type of thing. I think that's what I'm doing here is going to complement that. So Monique says, looks good. Thank you, Monique. I appreciate that. It is pro. You can, oh, it is pro. You can scroll the pop-up image. Oh, okay. Here it is. So here's the thing about pro. I don't think I can stream a pro project is the problem. I think I can stream a free project. Let me see here. Can I stream a pro front-end mentor challenge using the screenshots? I know I can stream a free challenge. I don't know if I can. Short answer, don't assume pro equals streamable. Pro usually means you can use the assets for personal and commercial projects, not that you can redistribute the design files publicly. Streaming changes things because you're publicly displaying their paid assets. You're potentially exposing full design screenshots. You're monetizing the content. That can cross into redistribution territory depending on their license. I wouldn't have access to the files because I'm not a pro member. The value is in access to the design files. Showing full resolution screenshots publicly can undermine that. Even if you're not giving away the Figma file, displaying the entire design on stream is effectively sharing the paid asset. Yeah, sorry about that. Even if I was a paid pro member, I probably still would not stream that content because and also I would not redistribute the Figma files. It gets a little bit weird. Yeah. And they could absolutely do some kind of a claim. So I'm glad that you asked. Thank you for asking, because I need to be able to, what am I thinking of? It's good for us to have these conversations out loud together as a chat so people understand why I make the decisions that I make about what I choose to share or the types of files that I choose to use. Exactly. Copyright is very weird. My channel is like partially monetized, but not fully monetized. And I am very much trying to build an audience on this platform. I want to be part of the partner program. I want to earn AdSense. I want to earn money from my work here. And that means I have to play by the rules. So I'm glad that we have these conversations out loud so you guys know why I make the decisions that I make. So, okay, tomorrow, well, we've got some images. Let's optimize our images tomorrow. Let's find one accent color that we like. We only need one accent color. That makes our job so easy. And then we'll jump back into the CSS. We'll do more global styles and we will start building out our header. We are also putting a lot of emphasis on accessible submenus. I have a really, really good system for building accessible, responsive navigation. Now let's build, I've had people ask me before, can you include submenus? And it's time to nail our system for submenus as well. So we're going to do that with this design, and I'm excited about that because I love some good accessible responsive navigation. So, and Rahul says there are also free Figma UIs that are really good out there. Yeah, well, I have quite the collection. And yes, we're always going to play by the rules. There is no shortage of stuff for us to do on this channel. None whatsoever. Between my own collection of Photoshop files and what's freely available out there to build, I'm definitely not worried about running out of content. So there's that. So, and Saeed says, one thing that confuses me is that there are already many AI tools in the market that can replace front ends, such as Lovable and others. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, my thoughts are that AI is a tool. It doesn't, AI is getting better and better and better with every new version. It's already better now than it was 6 months ago. And I know what people are saying, which is that AI is going to replace a lot of developers. And my philosophy remains the same. If you are the developer that is sitting in the corner and completing tasks, you might get replaced by AI. If you are the developer, and please understand that I fully support people who have good work-life balance. I don't think that you need to answer Slack messages after hours. I don't think you need to be up in the middle of the night responding to emails. And I think it's okay to get your work done and go home at the end of the day. But with AI being the tool that it is, the expectations are going to be that you work faster and more efficient. And if you don't want to be replaced, I think there is going to be an expectation that you're going to need to be a little more engaged in the process wherever it is that you work. Now, for someone like me, that's not a problem because I have a big mouth and I don't sit in the corner and complete tasks. I want to be part of the conversation. I want to be in meetings when leadership has all their stupid ideas about things that they want to build so I can rein them in and keep them under control. So this is not a problem for me because I am not short on words at any point in any process. But for people who are maybe a little more introverted, they aren't as comfortable standing up and sharing their ideas out loud or interjecting, you may want to develop some of those skills and be a little more engaged with your leadership teams, be a part of the conversation at the table. This is why I've started doing more deployment content because those conversations are huge at an organization. When you guys are sitting down and working out your process for how things get deployed, how it gets from the local environment to a staging environment, the code reviews, deciding what day during the weeks do you do deployment? What is your QA process afterward? I don't know how you participate in that conversation if you yourself don't understand how to do it. That's why I include deployment content on my channel. I want you setting up a server. I want you pushing to get. I want you understanding how FileZilla and rsync work. I want you understanding those processes so you can develop your own little process for your own projects. Think how much more valuable that's going to be when you have a job and all the developers get into a room and talk about, well, who's going to do the code reviews and when are you going to deploy? And what day of the week are you going to deploy? Are you going to have a window when you deploy? What's the QA process afterward? I want you sitting at the table participating in those conversations, and you're not going to be able to do it if you don't actually know how to do it. So getting a little off topic here because the question was specific to AI tools, but I think it applies. The more you know, the more valuable you'll be. And that's what I want for you. AI is not going to take over right now as I see it. It just isn't. But it's a tool like everything else. You will be expected to do more, faster, and more efficiently. But I don't think it's going to replace anybody. So, and Top Best is here. Hello, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us. And Saeed says that was a good answer. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey, do me a favor. If you haven't yet, can you like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet? It helps the algorithm, helps push this type of content out to more people who might be interested. And I would appreciate it so much. I'm here 4 days a week, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We hang out for a couple hours, generally 2 to 2.5 hours, and we just build our little vanilla projects. So I'm also trying to grow my audience on Instagram. My Instagram content is a bit sporadic right now. I'm like doing some stuff, thinking about stuff. I would say that what I post on Instagram is not like dev related exactly, because that content actually doesn't do that well on Instagram. I would say that it's more dev lifestyle adjacent. It's also a good place to chat if you have questions. Just send me a DM. And of course, if you would like me to follow you back, just tell me who you are. Tell me that you found me from YouTube, so I know you're not a bot account, and I will gladly follow you back. But I really want to grow my audience on Instagram too, because I think it's fun. So there's that. Rahul sent me a DM. All right, I will check that out. Everybody, have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you to the mods, Raul, Monique, Malik. Malik was really quiet today. Are you still here, Malik? Not that you owe me an explanation. You certainly don't. But you were quiet today, which makes me think that you had something going on, which is perfectly fine. Come back tomorrow. We'll get cracking and write some CSS for this homepage. Everybody have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and I will see you in my next one. Bye-bye.